The clock is now running on the Playbook podcast, the podcast where you take a deeper dive into the game of business, leadership, teamwork, character, the things that drive your motivation and build dedication. When you get a good look at the game plan of great business leaders, you start to formulate your own playbook and your own rise to the top. Make your next play your best play. And now, here are today's game captains, Glenn Amarell and Andy Phillips. Let's go!
Welcome back to the Playbook podcast. I'm Andy Phillips. Joining me, as always, is my partner, Glenn Amarell. Glenn, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, hey, we have a great guest on today who's, we're lucky enough that he's sharing his time with us. So normally we do our pregame warm-up questions for each other, but I feel warmed up on this Friday, and I know you do as well. So we're going to get right into our guest. So if you'd like to introduce him, the floor is yours.
Yes, as you said, we do have a great guest today. We've got Joe Boczek, who is the executive director of WV Game Changers, which is a youth-led prevention organization designed to educate, support, and empower teens to make healthy choices and become leaders. And Game Changers is focused on the opioid epidemic. Joe, welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you guys.
Well, thank you very much. And as our listeners know, we start out the first half is business-related questions, and then we have a little fun with you in the halftime. And then we end it with leadership questions. So I'm going to kick things off. As a business person in West Virginia, what inspired you to start WV Game Changers?
Well, I think that first of all, I developed a drinking problem when I was sports information director at West Virginia University back in the 80s. And I had some very good mentors that recognized it, obviously, before I did, and got me into a treatment center back in 1996. And I've been fortunate to be sober ever since. And just 4 years ago, even though I've known better, I developed about a 3-week addiction to opioid painkillers after rotator cuff surgery from an old athletic injury. Fortunately, I recognized it quickly, as did my wife. And even then, only after 3 weeks, I spent 3 of the most dreadful days you can imagine, your worst case of the flu personified thousands of times, coming down off the addiction, the physical addiction that opioids cause. I always say that the high that opioids give you is as intense as the low and the withdrawals, and they are two ends of the spectrum. So, and coupled with, I have 4 children, and my second daughter, Kara, who's now 33, is just celebrating 10 years free from heroin. She was an first team all-state basketball player back in 2007 who went to college to play ball and hadn't so much as taken probably an aspirin in her life, and went to college. And somebody there gave her at a party gave her a painkiller and a beer, and we were off to the races. And we had 3 years of awful, dreadful times in our family, and so on and so forth. And then that being coupled with the fact that we do have an epidemic going on, and that West Virginia's been hit hardest by it, and having lived it and having known how bad it gets a hold of you and how tough it is. I had an awful time after 3 weeks. Imagine people on them for 20 years. Right. And they're tearing at the fiber of the family. And the real tough, devastating part of the opioid epidemic is that you don't even have to be on opioids to suffer dreadful results, meaning there's plenty of good kids, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all ages, that have never touched them, but mom and or dad are in them. So they suffer the highs and lows that go with addiction. They see mom all happy and whacked out, and they know she's whacked out, but at least she's happy because she's got her fix, or dad's got his fix. Then she sees mom when she can't get her fix, and she's a very mean, ugly person to be around, which results in maybe no food on the table for dinner, no lunch packed, being treated dreadfully and meanly when you ask for help on your homework, being put on the bus in the mornings in a very sad state, going to school in a sad state. And all of these are awful things. And that person hasn't even done an opioid. Then you have the kids who are starting on opioids that graduate to heroin, and with the cutting it with using fentanyl, Now they're dying instantly, not knowing that not knowing when they inject that they have 30 seconds to live or whatever.
Right.
So, I just thought I had a calling from God that, I gave up most of my advertising and marketing business, and, we've had a lot of good people help us. And, we just announced with Governor Justice. Governor Justice is our head coach. He's joined Game Changers back in July, and he just announced in his state that we struck a partnership with the world famous Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation and Hazelton Betty Ford Center, which will help us provide evidence-based prevention education curriculum programs in all our schools in West Virginia for all ages. So we're, long-winded answer, but factual answer is, we need to step up from this. So,
Yeah, well, your answer was exactly what we want our listeners to hear is, you obviously this is a passion project for you because you did have some experience that led you to have a passion for this. And we need more people like you, especially with this, everything going on. So, but I want to ask you, so you have a business background. How has that helped you shape this passion project? Because we can all have a passion and want to start a project, but you have to have the plan and to be able to execute it. So talk to us a little bit about how your business background has helped you actually take this dream and really push it forward and have the early success already.
That's a great question. Well, I think it's monumental and very needed because we are raising money. We're fundraisers. We're a public-private corporation. We are 501c3, and we have to make decisions on advertising, marketing, and promotion budgets, and we have to make decisions on so many other things. I want to tell you too, before I forget. Please get in touch with me by the end of next week sometime. We're going to have a monumental major announcement of a major golf tournament and prevention luncheon at the Greenbrier Resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia on May 26th and 27th. And there are some very, very celebrity people that are going to be involved that I'm not at liberty yet to announce, but that we're just crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But this is going to really take Game Changers to another level with this 2-day, Wednesday, Thursday at the Greenbrier. So call me, make sure you keep me on your list, and next week maybe I can come on real quick or give you the information and you people can do it.
Absolutely.
Certainly we'll share it. Absolutely. Now, I got another question here for you, Joe, and I kind of have a unique perspective of this because, like you, I've been sober since 2008, so over a dozen years.
Good for you.
Thank you. So that gives me a unique insight and the ability to help somebody else that's struggling with the same problem. So how important is it for peer-to-peer education and the success of your mission, especially with all that the young folks are going through today?
It's paramount, and I'll tell you why. Studies are showing, I think if, I'm probably the oldest of this bunch here. But back in my day, we had what they called guidance counselors at high schools. Now you don't even call them guidance counselors. They take offense to that. They're school counselors. But that guidance counselor was there to help you with college, to help you with any issues you were having. And statistics show that kids, especially in this generation, don't feel comfortable going in and talking about mom being on drugs, dad being on drugs, trouble at home, mom hitting dad, all the kind of issues that kids go through. And kids really are affected deeply today, more than probably anybody wants to really admit. So with this peer-to-peer part of the Game Changers that we're working on with the life coaching thing with Senator Unger from West Virginia and his life coaching grace that we're implementing, kids are trained to know how to deal with peers. And so it's proven that, a 15-year-old feels a lot more comfortable going to a 16 or 17-year-old to sit and talk about issues. And that 17-year-old, if trained correctly, knows how to deal remotely. I mean, they're not a professional counselor, but they are trained in a 3-hour college credit type of a class situation to know how to make that person comfortable to talk about that and be able to offer advice on further discussions to a professional counselor. So it starts the ball rolling, and it probably saves some suicides. It probably saves some additional drug usage. And it's an overall good thing. Peer-to-peer is great because kids just feel more comfortable talking to their peers than they do to mom and dad or to anybody else.
100%. 100%. So I want to get into this one real quick before we hit to our halftime, because it doesn't take long for people to realize you clearly are doing something right when all you have to do is look at Game Changer sponsors. Whether it's your head coach, Governor Justice, whether it's Rhonda, who we've had on the show, who highly recommended you. Then you look at all your sponsors. They're incredible. They're big time brands. What's the secret? What has been the secret for you to start this thing up and just hit it out of the park with the support you've gotten?
Well, I'll tell you, a mentor of mine once told me, better lucky than good any day. And there's a lot of truth to that. We've been very lucky. We've been blessed by God. There's no question about that. And we're very fortunate because I'll give you the example of the partnership with Walmart. I don't care how good of a cold caller you are. If you had to call corporate Walmart in Arkansas and in Bentonville, Arkansas, and start with a receptionist who ever answered the phone and explain to yourself, my name is Joe Boczek and I have this thing called Game Changers. And really, you got no chance. And in June of 2019, we held our first statewide press conference to announce Game Changers and our first opioid and substance misuse awareness summit. So we were fortunate to have President of West Virginia University, Gordon Gee, the President of Marshall, Jerome Gilbert, the athletic directors, Shane Lyons and WVU and Mike Hamrick of Marshall, and the state superintendent of schools, the president of NVB Bank, one of our biggest sponsors, to announce the initiative. Okay, that was great. We got great coverage that day, statewide, all over the state. Well, the next day I'm at a travel basketball game with my youngest son, and my phone rings from an area code, but I, being in the communication business, I always answer it. It's a gentleman named Josh Fair. He's a senior corporate VP from Walmart in community affairs and public relations, government relations, whatever. I'm not quite 100% sure, but he introduces himself and tells me that his CEO and the people at Walmart or whatever had identified that they have issues. Walmart's very community oriented. They're a wonderful company, very community oriented, and that they recognize an opioid issue in West Virginia. And so as part of his job, he was instructed to start doing some research on what they could do. So he started Googling opioids, West Virginia opioids. And we just happened to be lucky to have had that press conference the day before. So that's all that was on Google for the first 3 pages. Opioids addressed in West Virginia. Game Changer initiative unveiled to help opioid crisis. And he saw my name, and then he called around and he got my number, and we struck up a deal, and they started helping fund Game Changers. Totally right place, right time. And I've always said there's only one person that could do something like that, and that's God. How could I know to do a June 4th press conference? And how would I know that on June the 4th or the morning of the 5th, 2 high-level people at Walmart would be talking, and one would be given a directive to go look and address and see what Walmart could do to help the opioid situation in West Virginia? Look, I ain't that good, guys. I'm just not that good.
When you do things the right way and you're doing something that's, really meant to be, the ball seems to bounce in your direction, right? So I think that's a credit to you guys. And yeah, you call it God, you can call it lucky, but either way, I think what you're doing was meant to have success. So it's no surprise to me. What's funny is you sent me some information about Game Changers as we were preparing to talk to you. A lot of people who just kind of start a company, if they're sending you information, maybe they have one press release and then a nice little email explaining more about it. The amount of information you were able to send so early is a true credit to what you're doing. But Joe, with that, we are to halftime. So halftime, okay. The way we do it on our show, it's a speed round, 10 questions. We're throwing business and leadership. We're throwing all that out. We just want to, peel back the curtain of who Joe is so our listeners can have some fun with you. So you ready for the speed round?
I am.
All right. We like year, make, and model and color if you have it on the show. First car you ever owned. Not borrowed, not was, let use, owned.
1974 lime green Camaro. Don't ask me why it was lime green, because it was the only one we could find, but with a spoiler on the back of it.
Okay, so you were cruising. You were cruising. Yeah. All right. What is your biggest fear? It can be as simple as a spider. You can go deep if you want. It's really up to you.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, my biggest fear is, we had three kids. They're two daughters, 34 and 33, and a son, 28. And we had a real surprise who's been fabulous, is our son, Drew, who's 16. He's following in line of his sister and brother, a pretty good athlete, has a chance to play in college, and great student. And, we were blessed to have him, but he was a surprise. And my biggest fear is that, at 62, there's no gimmies anymore, and that I wouldn't be around to have him be around for him as he finished his grown into manhood.
That's a true fear. Well, congrats to you guys. What sport is he looking
Football,
at?
basketball, track. Quarterback in football, guard in basketball, and he does long jump and sprints in track.
Okay, so everybody's All-American right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is your personal favorite book or podcast? Either one.
Godfather. Yeah.
Nice.
What is your favorite line from a song?
Probably, I would say the entire song of You're So Vain. You walked into a party like you were walking onto a yacht. Your hat strategically dipped below one eye. Your scarf, it was apricot. I think Carly Simon, I wish I knew who she wrote that about, but it's one of the greatest jacks of all time on the largest stage. And it's so well written that I could that is my all-time favorite song. And I could never pick one of the lines out of there. You flew your Learjet up to Nova Scotia to watch the total eclipse of the sun. How strong is that?
And do you know who sings backup vocals on that?
I hear it's James Taylor or Mick Jagger.
Both.
Both.
Yep.
Is that right? And
Yes,
I heard
sir.
she wrote it about, some say Warren Beatty, some say James Taylor. She's never, to my knowledge, I'll Google it every once in a while to see if I've missed it, if she's ever divulged who she wrote that song about.
I think she did it for a charity, told some one person, I heard. So, but I don't know if they're allowed to divulge it.
Oh, she is told one person knows who it is?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's
I
wild.
heard that it was for a charity, and whoever bid the most got the juice.
No kidding.
That's what I heard.
I'd love to do that I'd love to bring her in and do something for Game Changer and do that. That'd be
Absolutely.
There we go. Let's get it out there.
Yeah,
let's go.
Absolutely.
All right. So you answered Godfather was your favorite movie, correct?
Right. And book. Well, Mario Puzo, the book, The Godfather, actually.
Okay. So is it also your favorite movie then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I love The Godfather. I like number 2 better. To me, it makes you think more.
4 disappointed me. Or is it 3? There's 3. 3 was disappointing. I saw the deepness of it, but it was too crazy.
To me, it's
1 and 2
2
were awesome, and 2 was better than 1. 2 was better than 1, but that's like playing a triple overtime 199 basketball game. Both teams are great.
Exactly. I'm with you on that. All right. What is your dream vacation, whether you've taken it or want to take it?
Well, we've been fortunate. We're beach people, and we've traveled. We've been to Maui a few times. We've been to the Caribbean. We go to Florida a lot. But I would say either Fiji, or either the New Zealand run or the Australia run, just because, that's something my wife and I both said would like to go do one day.
Okay, good. All right. I hate to break it to you, but you're wrongly convicted of something and you're on death row at the moment. I apologize.
Yeah.
So what would your last meal, what would your death row meal be?
I'm going to answer it this way. I've always wondered about that. And here's what I've wondered. You're being executed. Who's got an appetite?
Yeah.
I would not have a death row meal. There is no possible way, if I'm getting lethal injection in the next couple of hours, or the electric chair, or the firing squad, or a gas chamber, how could you possibly, enjoy a meal? I mean, I guess the premise around that is that you that's your last meal. So but I love food. I love good food. And food's enjoyable with friends and wife and kids and having dinner. I would know. I know for a fact, if God forbid I was in that situation and was offered it, I know I wouldn't eat.
That's my favorite answer. That is, we've been doing this podcast, 15, 16, 17 episodes. Right. That is my favorite answer we've had throughout all of them. No meal. So as an former offensive lineman, I just can't fathom that. But I think your thought process is right. All right, moving on. What is the most random skill you wish you had? It could be playing the piano. It could be singing. It could be dunking in basketball. Most random skill you wish, I wish I could do that.
I probably wish I could play some type of musical instrument. Or I'll tell you this, I am absolutely awful around the house doing handyman things. Like I have a hard time putting a nail through two pieces of wood. I can't work a computer at all. My era is way behind and I get frustrated. And plus I believe that the technology age has gotten to, it's a detriment rather than a positive.
I agree.
For all the good things that are, it's hurting our kids. My own, he's a 4.0 student, but I watched them coming out of school, going to practice the other day, and there wasn't one of the kids talking to each other. They all had their hands like this, looking in their phones. And so, but I have trouble with my computer. I go to my 16-year-old and then he looks at me like I'm stupid because I know the stuff that I'm having trouble with is like, he's wondering how in the world could that be perplexing to you?
Right.
So, I probably wish I would be able to work a computer, get into the technical end of the computer, not be afraid to try to do something on the computer. Because, I have lost a couple times in my life, and I don't know if it's happened to you, but it's awful when you spend 3 or 4 hours writing something and you're saving it and you're saving it and you lose it somehow. You obviously did something. You have no idea what you did, and you lose 4 hours worth of work. That is terrible, which causes people like me to be almost petrified to type anything. Like, because, you should see how many times I save stuff when I'm writing, and I write a lot. I'm saving all the time and looking and making a copy of it and everything, making a hard copy. I do things probably they're saying that's what your computer's for.
I'm with you. And I can tell you this, if the three of us got together for some handyman work, we get about nothing done or ruin everything because we're on the same page with it there.
I know.
All right.
Absolutely.
2 more left in halftime. Then we got to get to the second half. What genre of trivia do you think you could compete against anyone in the world against? It can be as specific as you want. What genre of trivia do you think you have the ability? Sports? Athletics, sports, I know that Ralph Terry served up the home run ball to Mazeroski in the 60 World Series and stuff. So I've got a pretty good background in sports, so I'd battle pretty good with people. Well, me and you should team up and go find the local trivia bar, and
I'd do it.
They can all drink. We'll get our waters and smoke them.
Or you can check out the Cuzzo app, right?
Yeah, there you go. All right, and then ultimately, you like sports. What's your favorite sports team?
That's one that I'm going to answer, and I'll expound a little bit to tell you why. I don't really have one at this point. I've had, like, for instance, I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan growing up, loved them. And when Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry the way he did, when he flew a helicopter in while Landry was gone, I'm not saying that he didn't have the right to dismiss him. I'm not even saying that Coach Landry probably wasn't time for him to go, but there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And to do that and upstage him, a man of that character and moral character, I may add, for him to fly a helicopter in on a golf course and walk up and tell him you're fired, that blew the I can still, when the Cowboys play, I still have that little piece that I root on them, but I was passionate. The Lakers, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West being a West Virginia guy, and all through the years with Pat Riley and Showtime and Magic and Kareem, I loved them. I am a total non-fan of LeBron James, so I don't root on the Lakers anymore. I think he's getting something to back up something with the Lakers. It looks like maybe, so because I have a big distaste for LeBron James, I can't root on the Lakers. Probably, if anybody I would probably say the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Right now, because I love Mike Tomlin. He a very good friend of mine, Bill Stewart, who's unfortunately passed away, was head coach at West Virginia in football. It's a very dear friend of mine. His son went to school with mine. He's one of the finest men you'd ever meet. He coached Coach Tomlin at William and Mary, and Coach Tomlin not only came back for Bill's funeral, but that following football season was Bill's son's senior football year in high school. And he had just lost his dad, and they were really close. He was the only child of Bill and Karen Stewart. And Coach Tomlin showed up at the high school game on a Friday night to watch him. And if you don't know, Blaine works for the Steelers. Coach Tomlin gave him a job now after he graduated college. So I will probably say the Steelers.
I like it.
Great
So
answer.
real quick, I assume you're a West Virginia University, West Virginia sports fan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I worked there. I was sports information director there in the 80s with Coach Nealon and Coach Catlett. And I definitely pull for him. And I got a lot of respect for Bob Huggins. He's, a great bench coach, great basketball coach, obviously.
So,
and our new coach here, Neil Brown. I went through a little bit of a downtime with the gentleman that was before him, a gentleman named Holgerson. But Bill Stewart, Don Nealon built a foundation there. It's wonderful. So, yeah, that's fair. I love Notre Dame until they had Barack Obama speak at commencement, and that ended it for me. I'm not a big Obama freaking president fan. And they covered the crucifix up, man, at their request. That bummed me out. So I love Notre Dame for a long time.
So I grew up an hour and a half from South Bend, so Irish Catholic. I
been there. Oh, you got it.
If I was good at this job, Glenn, I would have had this in the background somewhere.
Oh, that's beautiful.
My Bob Huggins autograph. What was I thinking? So that's
where did you get that at?
So I'm a huge Bob Huggins fan. I don't really.
Okay.
So
I know
if it's not Central Michigan, I root for wherever Huggins is coaching. And a couple years ago, I was like, I'm just gonna call down and see if I can get a Huggins autograph, and I got one. So
cool.
They sent it right back. It was pretty cool. But anyways, we got to get going because halftime turned into the second half, basically. So we're going to ask you here because we probably got about 10 minutes left and we want to get to these questions. So we're going to continue a faster portion second half here because we really want to get these questions in for you because, you've been awesome. So these are leadership and experience focused. So as a leader, your ultimate goal is to lead game changers nationwide. What does the rollout look like? How do you anticipate it kind of going as you move forward and keep expanding?
Well, right now we are very concentrated in West Virginia with this Hazelton Betty Ford partnership. And we are close, almost probably next week, of being able to give the Department of Education and the governor a complete plan on Game Changer and what Game Changers means and what it does, including watching a video before you can go any farther in Game Changers, and then what the curriculum is in the schools, and then picking 30 pilot schools the first year, followed by remainder of the schools in year 2 and 3. While we get there, after we establish and have approved what Game Changer is substance-wise, we're going to Kentucky, and Kentucky will be our next state that because it borders West Virginia. It's very similar to West Virginia in a lot of ways. And it has similar problems that West Virginia has. And Walmart is interested in going to Kentucky. So that's where we go. And then from there, I think we'll probably have some type of a major, I don't want to call it major summit, but we'll get the Rondas of the world and everybody into a meeting somewhere in the United States around the table, probably 25 or 30 people from very decent, influential backgrounds in education and drug prevention and stuff, and then see how we roll this thing out over the country.
Great answer.
Awesome. Now, as you go from school to school, how do you identify and then develop youth leaders?
We're right there. That's a work in progress. And I think that we're going to try to attract, what we're going to do is have, hopefully, like where, in every high school, there's extracurricular advisors, whether it's the basketball coach, paid extra to be the basketball coach, whether it's the National Honor Society advisor that's paid extra to be the National Honor Society advisor, the band director, whatever. We're going to have a game changer coach. and hope that, and we're going to, it's not going to be tons of money, but it'll be equivalent to what somebody can make being a high school basketball coach. And we're going to hope that faculty step front and say, I want to do that, and pay them to do that, which means they know the kids, they can work with the counselors, they can work with the principals and the assistant principals, and they'll know who to identify as somebody. Well, Johnny Smith, that junior, he fits the bill, that they'll be able to help us. So that's kind of the plan we're looking at right now.
Phenomenal.
Awesome.
Well, Joe, we are to our Hail Mary question. So we do got cut a couple questions short, just based on our timeline for this podcast. You've been phenomenal, by the way. We appreciate you opening up to us and giving people an idea of Game Changer and everything. And even your experience, you opened up yourself at halftime, which halftime's always a risk because we never know how people are gonna are they gonna open up. Are we gonna have to pry some stuff out? You were phenomenal. But Hail Mary time. Hail Mary question for us. Last play of the game. It's our best play. It's our same play every single episode. We want you to go back to 22-year-old Joe, knowing what you know now with all you've experienced. Give 22-year-old Joe some advice.
Never be afraid to fail. Never give up. Never, ever, ever, ever give up sight short of what you want to accomplish. Be tenacious. Be hard-nosed. And never be afraid to admit a mistake. And if God forbid you find yourself into the substance abuse or alcohol issue problems, know there's help, and know that it doesn't destroy you. It doesn't have to destroy you, and that there are people out there and there are people willing to help you, and that you can still achieve every goal that you wanted to, no matter what. So I think that would probably be, what I would tell them in the short term.
Tenacity, ownership, don't be afraid to fail. Everyone who is afraid to fail, you typically aren't tenacious because you can't give your all. Now, just real quick, there was a player I played with in college, Division I school. He was highly recruited. He never had the maximum effort, because I think he deep down wanted, so when he didn't succeed, he could tell himself it's because I wasn't trying as hard. I think to truly be tenacious and to go all out, you do sometimes have to look in the mirror and say, I failed trying my hardest. And that's sometimes hard for people to do, but it's okay to fail. So I completely agree with you. I think that was a great answer. Tenacity, own it when you're wrong, own it when you messed up, and move on.
Absolutely.
Well, Joe, you've been an amazing guest, and what you're doing is super passionate to me, obviously, and Andy's all about helping young people. So, in about 30 seconds, tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, how they can make a difference in young people's lives and with your.
Well, I welcome text to 304-288-5924. I welcome phone calls to 304-288-5924. I return them all. And if anyone wants to go a longer version or an intro, my email is Joe, Joe, at B as in boy, B as in boy, I, Z as in zebra, which is short for business, strategies, strategies.com. Joe at jbbizstrategies.com. And don't ask me why in the hell I got talked into that email address, because that's a bad email address, but it is what it is now. But there's so much propensity for errors and JOE at JBBIZ that. But anyway, I welcome anybody out there that happen to be listening that would want to. Then please feel free. I would look forward to talking to you on anything.
And here we are with a special announcement as promised by Joe Boczek of Game Changers. Joe mentioned earlier in the podcast with us that he has a special announcement he would like to make. So, Joe, the floor is yours. Let the people know what's going on.
Hey, thank you very much. Well, we have been very fortunate that as the Game Changer Initiative has grown and that we will be going, nationwide and solidifying West Virginia in the prevention education business for our kids. we are going to hold the first annual Game Changer Golf Classic and Prevention Education Luncheon at the world famous Greenbrier Resort in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia on May 26th and 27th of this year. The festivities will begin with a dinner, a cocktail reception and dinner on the 26th, followed by a breakfast and golfing the morning of the 27th, and a luncheon featuring some of the top educators in the world in conjunction with our partnership with the West Virginia Drug Intervention Institute and our main partner, the Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation. And there'll be educators from around the country talking about what we have developed so far through Hazelton Betty Ford in regards to prevention education in West Virginia, for the schools in West Virginia, that we hope is cutting edge. But the most important thing we're excited about is the golf's going to be a scramble, and we're going to have sports and business celebrities from around the country that are going to come in for the 2-day affair. And this year, Alabama head football coach Nick Saban and his wife Terry, who are natives of West Virginia, will be coming back as game changers and special guests. Coach Saban's going, and Terry will both speak at the luncheon. Governor Justice will speak at the luncheon or at the dinner, as will Senator Joe Manchin, United States Senator Joe Manchin, and Coach Saban and Terry will be speaking at the dinner. Coach Justice, Governor Justice, Coach Justice, who is also the head coach of Game Changers, but Governor Justice and Coach Saban will be playing in the golf tournament. And we have a list of people that we will be announcing over the next couple of weeks from the sports world, including former WV coach Rich Rodriguez and some others that will be a big surprise that we're finalizing details on. But we are extremely happy to have Coach Saban. We are extremely happy to have his wife, Terry. And they, were born and raised not more than about 20 miles from where I'm at right now. Coach was born and raised in a town called Monongah in Marion County, and Terry was raised in Fairmont of Marion County. So we're really looking forward to this event. We think it's got the ability to raise. We're getting tons of offers for sponsorships, and we think that we'll be able to raise a good amount of funds to benefit opioid and substance prevention education in West Virginia schools.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, obviously, anytime you can lead off with Nick Saban, you can understand the importance of it, because that's a guy who I'm sure gets invited to a lot of these and has to decline a lot based on his schedule. So the fact that he's prioritizing you guys, I think, shows the importance of how great Game Changers is. Can you tell the people, is there any way that people can go and donate or sponsor, or how they can get
a hold of it? We will have it up on our website here. Now that we'll be announcing it, then go to wvgamechanger.com, and all the information will be on there to donate to Game Changer, to play in the Golf Classic, to come to the Greenbrier for 2 days. If you've never been to the Greenbrier, it's a wonderful, beautiful place. And there's going to be a lot of activity for the educators, for people that are involved in education, for the novice sports people. So, again, go to wvgamechanger.com.
Phenomenal.
Well, that's fantastic, Joe. What a great cause, and what the Greenbrier. That's amazing. And I think it's such a good cause, and I think you're doing a great job. And we hope our listeners can reach out. Is there one more time, Joe, just so people know, how can they get a hold of you? What's your website again?
It's wvgamechanger.com.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Joe, for the special announcement. My name's Glenn Amaral.
I'm Andy Phillips.
And until next time, what's in your playbook?